What if I told you that the harder you chase something, the faster it runs from you? Think about it for a moment. You chased love and ended up exhausted. You chased money and it never felt like enough. You chased answers, peace, opportunities, recognitions, and the harder you ran after them, the more life seemed to pull them out of reach. But then something strange happened. You got tired. You let go. You stopped chasing. And the very moment you lowered your hands, the thing you had been reaching for appeared. Coincidence? The Taoist masters would say no. They would say you had just brushed against one of the deepest and least understood laws of existence. A law that does not work through effort, but through release. A law that explains why some people seem to receive blessings without ever chasing them, while others spend their whole lives struggling and never reach what they long for. Today, you are going to discover a teaching that has stayed alive for more than 2,500 years. A teaching so simple that most people ignore it, and so powerful that it can completely change the way you move through life. Because maybe the problem was never what you were searching for. Maybe the problem was the way you were searching for it. Stay with me. Breathe slowly, and let's walk into something the world forgot how to hear. Let me ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly. Has anything important ever come to you the very moment you stopped looking for it? A relationship that appeared right after you had decided to be alone. A job that arrived once you had stopped sending out applications. An answer that came when you had finally given up searching for it. A moment of peace that settled over you the instant you stopped trying to be at peace. If that has happened to you, it was not chance. It was a law in motion, a law the Taoist masters understood more than 2,500 years ago, and that almost no one today truly grasps. They called it the law of the rebound, and it says something that sounds impossible, yet something you have already lived without ever naming it. Everything you cast into the world with the right energy returns to you, multiplied, transformed, better than it was when you released it. This is not the law of attraction. It has nothing to do with visualizing or repeating affirmations in the mirror or forcing the universe to obey. It is something far older, far more real, and far more powerful. It has to do with how you move through life, with the energy you emit, with what you give, and above all, with what you are willing to let go of. Today you will finally understand why some receive so much with so little effort, while others fight their whole lives and grasp nothing. The difference between them is not luck. It is that some understand this law, and others defy it every single day without knowing. So before we walk through the 7 teachings, you need to understand the one principle everything else is built upon. Imagine you are standing in a valley, surrounded by mountains. You shout something, and a few seconds later, your voice returns. Exactly what you shouted. If you shout love, love comes back. If you shout anger, anger comes back. If you shout fear, fear returns. The mountain does not change your message. It returns it untouched. The Taoist masters noticed that life works in exactly this way. Life is an echo. It gives back what you emit, not always instantly, not always in the same shape, but always with a precision that unsettles you once you begin to notice it. What you give returns. What you clench is withheld from you. What you release with generosity comes back as abundance. What you release with resentment comes back as more resentment. Life does not judge what you emit. It simply returns it, like an echo that holds no opinion, only accuracy. And here is what changes everything. If you do not like what you are receiving, you do not need to change the world. You need to change what you are emitting. Because the echo is always faithful to the shout. Change the shout, and you change the echo. Now, the 7 teachings. The first teaching reveals the kind of giving that activates the law of the rebound. There are 2 ways to give. The first is to give while expecting to receive. You do someone a favor, quietly hoping they will owe you one. You love, expecting to be loved back in the same measure. You give your time, expecting recognition in return. This is not giving, it is investing, and like every investment, it comes wrapped in anxiety, in expectation, in disappointment when the return does not arrive the way you imagined. The second way is to give while expecting nothing at all. To give simply because it rises in you. Because you can, without calculating, without keeping score, without some hidden ledger in your mind where you record what the world still owes you. This is the giving that activates the rebound. Because when you give without expectation, the energy you emit is clean. It has no conditions. It carries no hooks. And what life returns to that clean energy is equally clean. The Taoist masters practiced this every day. They gave their time without waiting for gratitude. They shared their wisdom without waiting for recognition. They helped without waiting for the favor to be repaid, and they watched life return things they had never asked for, through doors they had never imagined, at moments they had never planned. Lao Tzu wrote that the sage gives without exhausting himself, and receives without asking, because what he gives comes from a place so genuine that life cannot help but return it. So here is the first teaching. Give something this week without telling anyone, without expecting anything, without the other person even knowing it was you. And watch what happens, not with expectation, but with curiosity. The law of the rebound works best when you are not watching it. The second teaching shows the dark side of holding on. Imagine a lake where water flows in, but never flows out. At first the water is clear, but over time, with no exit, no current, no movement, the water grows stagnant. It clouds, it rots, not because the water is bad, but because water needs to flow to stay alive. Stagnation is a slow death. Your life works the same way. Everything you hold with fear begins to stagnate inside you. The love you do not give turns into loneliness. The money you never share turns into anxiety about losing it. The kind words you never say turn into regret. The forgiveness you refuse to offer turns into a bitterness that eats you from within. The Taoist masters noticed that the most miserable people were not the ones who had the least. They were the ones who held on to the most, the ones who gripped everything tightly, the ones who let nothing leave, out of fear of being left with nothing. And, paradoxically, the more they held, the less they truly had, because stagnant energy does not grow, it rots. Lao Tzu wrote that the Tao flows endlessly, it never stops, it never hoards, it never stagnates, and that is precisely why it never runs dry. Because what flows renews itself, and what renews itself always has life. So here is the second teaching. Think of something you are holding on to right now, something you could give, but you don't, out of fear of being left without it. And ask yourself, honestly, is holding this doing me good? Or is it quietly rotting me from the inside? The third teaching is crucial, because it is not enough to let go. What matters is how you let go. Some people release with resentment. They quit a job, but cursing their boss. They end a relationship, but hating the other person. They give something away, but feeling as if it is being torn from them. They do a favor, but complaining the whole time inside. That is not releasing, that is spitting. And what you spit out comes back spat upon. The Taoist masters taught that the law of the rebound does not only return what you give, it returns the energy with which you give it. Give with love, and love returns. Give with anger, and anger returns. Release with peace, and peace returns. Release with bitterness, and bitterness returns. The content matters, but the energy matters more. Think of the difference between someone who says, "I forgive you," through clenched teeth, and someone who says, "I forgive you," with soft eyes. The words are identical, but the energy is completely different, and what life returns to each of those energies is completely different. Lao Tzu wrote that the sage releases the way a tree releases its leaves in autumn, without drama, without resistance, without resentment, knowing that the leaf which falls with grace feeds the earth that will one day feed the tree again. So here is the third teaching. The next time you release something, pay attention to how you release it, with peace or with rage, with gratitude or with resentment, with freedom or with punishment, because that energy will decide exactly what kind of rebound returns to you. The fourth teaching is the one that most disorients people, and the one that most sets them free. When you give something, your mind automatically expects the return to come from the same person, the same place, the same shape. You lend money to a friend, and you expect that friend to repay you. You love someone with everything, and you expect that same someone to love you back. You pour your time into a job, and you expect that job to reward you. But the law of the rebound does not work like that. The return almost never comes from where you expect it. It comes from places you had not considered, from people you had not met, in forms your mind could never have planned. The money you gave to a stranger does not return as money from that stranger. It returns as an unexpected opportunity months later. The love you gave to someone who did not love you back does not return as their love. It returns as the arrival of someone new who finally knows how to love you. The Taoist masters understood that the Tao has its own logic, a logic the human mind cannot predict or control. The Tao returns, but by its own roads, and those roads are almost always more creative, more surprising, and more perfect than any road your mind could have designed. Lao Tzu wrote that the sage does not know where his fortune comes from, and so he never gives it up for lost, because he knows life has infinite channels through which to send what belongs to you. Your job is not to control those channels, it is to keep them open, and they stay open when you keep giving, without obsessing over where it will return from. So here is the fourth teaching. Stop staring at the place you gave, waiting for it to return through the same door. Look around you. The rebound may be arriving right now, through a road you never considered. The fifth teaching speaks of the factor most people ignore: time. The law of the rebound is never in a hurry. You are. You want to give today and receive tomorrow, to release on Monday and see results by Friday. But the law moves in a different time than yours. Sometimes it returns in days, sometimes in months, sometimes in years. And the speed of the return does not depend on how much you gave. It depends on when the moment is right for what you gave to come back to you in its finest form. The Taoist masters compared this to planting a seed. You plant it and you water it, but you do not tear up the soil every morning to check whether it has grown. You trust that beneath the surface something is forming, something you cannot yet see, something that needs its own time to ripen. And when it finally breaks through, it is stronger and more beautiful than anything you could have forced. And there is something more. The masters noticed that the longer the rebound took, the greater it was when it arrived, as if time itself multiplied what you had given. The things that came back quickly tended to be small. The ones that took months or years tended to be the ones that changed everything. Lao Tzu wrote that the sage plants and forgets. He does not plant and watch, he does not plant and despair. He plants and trusts, because he knows the earth knows what it is doing, even when he cannot see it. So here is the fifth teachings. If you gave something long ago and have received nothing back, it does not mean the law has failed. It may mean that what is coming is so large, it needs time to take form. The sixth teaching goes to the deepest level of the law. It is not only what you do that rebounds, it is what you are. Your inner state emits a constant frequency, and life reflects it back to you every single day, not as isolated events, but as the overall texture of your life, in the kind of people who come near you, in the kind of situations that keep repeating, in the very quality of your days. If you live in gratitude, life returns reasons to be grateful. If you live in complaint, life returns reasons to complain. If you live in fear, life returns situations that confirm your fear. Not because life punishes you or rewards you, but because life is a mirror, and the mirror does not lie. It reflects exactly what stands before it. The Taoist masters did not focus so much on what they did as on what they were. They cultivated inner states of calm, gratitude, generosity, and trust, not as a strategy to receive things, but as a way of living. And the natural consequence was that their lives reflected those states back to them. Calm on the outside, generosity on the outside, trust on the outside. Lao Tzu wrote that what you carry within manifests without, whether you want it to or not. Your inner world is transparent to the Tao. You cannot hide what you feel behind what you do. Life reads your interior and answers it always. So here is the sixth teaching. If you want to change what you receive, change what you are, not what you do, what you are. Because your doing can lie, your being never does. The final teaching closes the circle with the most important paradox of all. The law of the rebound works perfectly when you are not trying to use it, and it stops working the moment you turn it into a strategy to get results. Because the moment you give in order to receive, you are no longer giving, you are investing. And emotional investment carries the same energy as chasing, as desperation, as control. Everything the law quietly rejects. The paradox is this: the law only works when you do not care whether it works. When you give for the sake of giving, when you release for the sake of releasing, when you are for the sake of being, with no expectation, no calculation, no scanning of the horizon waiting for the return. The Taoist masters lived this way. They did not give in order to receive. They gave because giving was their nature. They did not release in order to attract. They released because holding on went against their essence. They were not calm so that things would go well for them. They were calm because they had understood that calm was the only honest way to exist. And life, watching that authenticity, that complete absence of a hidden agenda, answered with a generosity that left everyone else bewildered. Because life does not respond to strategy, it responds to truth. And when your truth is to give without expecting, to release without controlling, to be without pretending, life answers in the only way it knows, by returning everything to you, multiplied. So here is the seventh teaching, and the most important of all. Let go of the result. Give for the sake of giving. Be for the sake of being. Live for the sake of living. And let the law of the rebound do what it knows how to do, the moment you stop interfering. 7 teachings from a law as old as life itself. 1. Life is an echo that returns what you emit. 2. What you give without expecting returns without warning. 3. What you hold onto rots. 4. The energy with which you release decides what you receive. 5. The rebound rarely comes from where you expect. 6. Patience multiplies the return. And 7. Your inner state is what rebounds the most, and the law awakens the moment you release the result. It is not magic. It is not mysticism. It is simply the way life works when you stop interfering with it, when you stop calculating, when you stop clenching, when you stop keeping watch, when you simply live with open hands, giving what you can, releasing what was never yours to keep, being the most genuine version of yourself that you know how to be. The most miserable lives are not the emptiest ones. They are the most tightly gripped, and the fullest lives are not the ones that grasped the most, but the ones that learned to let life flow through open hands. Look at your own story honestly for a moment. So much of what you fought hardest to hold, you lost anyway, and so much of what stayed with you arrived quietly, on its own, in the season you had finally stopped forcing it. This is not a trick to master or a technique to perfect. It is a way of walking through the world. You give and you do not count. You release and you do not chase. You trust and you do not dig up the soil to check. And little by little, the way you move through life becomes the way life moves toward you. The echo has been answering you your whole life. The only question that ever mattered is what you have been shouting into the valley. So today, I want to ask something different of you. Not a comment, not a like. I want you to do something real. Think of one person you could give something to today. not something material, a sincere message. A call you have been putting off for weeks. A few words you know they need to hear. Give them, without expecting anything, without telling them it is because of some law. Just give, and then release, and watch. Because everything you offer from the heart leaves an invisible mark on the world. And sooner or later, in a way you could never predict, that mark finds its way back to you. Not always from where you expect, not always when you want, but always when you are ready to receive it. Maybe today you do not need to chase anymore. Maybe you do not need to force anything more. Maybe all you need is to open your hands, to trust a little more, and to let life do its part. Because when you stop running after life, it is life that begins to move toward you. If this reached you, leave one word below: trust. If you are ready to stop chasing everything and start trusting the flow of life. And tell me what corner of the world you are listening from. It moves me to see this quiet community grow. People from every corner of the earth, remembering one simple truth together. Thank you for walking this moment with me. Here we breathe slowly, without hurry, without force. This has been the Ink Monk. Open your hands and let life come to you.